Hello everyone, I'm Joseph Dinesh, a Catholic commentator from Sydney, Australia. In today's video, I want to address the argument put forward by the well-known political commentator MICHEAL Knowles regarding the superiority of the traditional Latin Mass over the Novus Ordo Mass proposed by the Second Vatican Council. As I listened to him discussing the traditional Latin Mass, it struck me how emotional attachment to an idea or concept can sometimes lead even rational individuals to make irrational statements in order to reinforce that emotional connection. The motivation behind creating this video was to highlight a concerning trend among certain individuals in the traditional Catholic communities arguing and behaving like Protestants do. You see, Protestants often reject the authority of the Catholic Church because their personal interpretation of the scriptures disagrees with that of the Church. Similarly, many traditional Catholics reject the authority of the Second Vatican Council, or at the least question it, because it contradicts their personal judgment and preference regarding the liturgy. Many reasonable Catholics acknowledge that while the documents of the Second Vatican Council were indeed filled with the wisdom of the Church Fathers, the implementation fell short in many aspects, leading to the compromise of the realization of the Council's vision. This shortfall also applies to the liturgical reforms introduced by the Council. However, MICHEAL Knowles says that these reforms are responsible for the challenges we are currently facing in our Church. Is he right? That's what we are going to discuss today. Let's get started. In the upcoming clip, we will hear MICHEAL making broad generalizations regarding the ill effects of the new form of Mass proposed by the Second Vatican Council. First, he mentions without any factual evidence that only older people attend the Novus Ordo Mass, while many young people prefer the traditional Latin Mass. Then he complains that despite promises of increased attendance by the liturgical reforms, the opposite has occurred. Third, he argues that there has been a decrease in vocations to priesthood because of the Novus Ordo liturgy. Let's hear him out.
When they upended the Mass, we were told this was going to lead to a period of people refilling the pews and, a new Pentecost. And it just didn't happen. The opposite happened. The pews totally emptied out. And if you go to the 1970s style masses today, the median age is about 106, and there are no children anywhere, and there are no priests, really. And if you go to the traditional Latin Mass, the median age is 8. And even if you take the kids out, the median age is like 24. And it's because that is attractive to young people who, maybe like me, fell away from the faith during periods of confusion and soft soap and weak preaching. And who, if they are to return, they're not going to return for more of that. They're not going to return for more of the world. I get plenty of the world every day of the week. They're going to return for something that is beyond the world, pointing toward beyond the world. And they're going to come for truth.
Upon hearing this clip, it is evident that MICHEAL Knowles places the blame for the decline in the Catholic faith squarely on the reforms initiated by the Second Vatican Council. But personally, I think Bishop Barron would beg to differ, pointing out that such a statement contains two logical fallacies. The first one is post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy, which means assuming that one thing caused another merely because the first thing preceded the other. The second one is the logical fallacy of singular causality, where someone believes that there can be only one cause for a particular event. It's also called causal oversimplification. Let's listen to Bishop Barron as he explains these fallacies.
And so people get frustrated, they get angry, and it's a convenient target to say, there it is, this big council. Prior to the council, everything was great. Then there's this great decline. The council is the problem. Well, let's get two problems, both in formal logic. One is the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy, right? Because it came after, it must be because of. And so there's that tendency to say, these things happened after the council, therefore the council's to blame. The other logical problem is the fallacy of singular causality. So we can find one great cause for all the troubles we're having. The decline in certain areas of church life in the West is a very complex phenomenon and is caused by all sorts of factors.
Now, no one is saying that the flawed implementation of the Second Vatican Council didn't play a role in the decline of the Catholic faith. However, claiming that it's the sole reason for the decline oversimplifies the issue. Because you and I can both think of numerous factors over the last 50 years that have contributed to the decline in religious belief in general, and specifically the Catholic faith. For instance, there has been the impact of the sexual revolution, remnants of communism, sex abuse scandals, modernization, the rise of information technology, insufficient seminary formation, so on and so forth. Not only that, in the upcoming clip, Bishop Barron also discusses the tendency among many commentators in the West to have a myopic view when analyzing the practice and decline of the Catholic faith. They often focus solely on Western European countries, the United States and Canada, without acknowledging that following the Second Vatican Council, the Catholic faith has experienced a revival in parts of Africa and Asia. This raises the question, if the Second Vatican Council was all bad, how did this revival occur? Let's listen to Bishop Barron.
One is, look at the church in Africa. The post-conciliar African Catholic Church is flourishing, is booming. And trust me, it's not based on a nostalgic return to the Latin Mass. I mean, I've been to Africa and seen African liturgies. To me, it's a beautiful example of the rich enculturation of the faith that Vatican II was about. Look at the church in parts of Asia where it's flourishing. There is a kind of myopia of a lot of people in the West to say, well, looking at our culture and our society, things look grim in certain ways. So I think you've got to get past that and accept a much richer account of how we, in our part of the world, got into our situation.
As Bishop Barron states in the video, the revival of Catholicism in Africa and parts of Asia is not because of a nostalgic return to the traditional Latin Mass, but rather it's largely thanks to the reforms introduced by the Second Vatican Council. Reforms such as use of vernacular language, inculturation, increased lay participation contributed greatly to the revival. As someone coming from a third world country like India, allow me to elaborate briefly on each of these key reforms. First, the permission to use vernacular languages in the liturgy made the Mass more accessible to people in these regions. This accessibility helped to engage individuals more deeply in the celebration of the Eucharist and other sacraments, fostering a strong sense of belonging and participation within the Church. Second, in Africa and Asia, where diverse cultural expressions are prevalent, this emphasis on inculturation allowed for a more authentic and meaningful celebration of the Mass. By incorporating elements of local culture into the worship, the Church was able to resonate more deeply with the people of these regions, strengthening their connection. Third, lay people were encouraged to take on more active roles in ministries and leadership positions within the Church. In Africa and Asia, where the Church has faced challenges such as clergy shortages and vast geographical distances, the involvement of lay people has been crucial in sustaining and growing the Catholic communities. This empowerment has led to the emergence of vibrant lay movements, evangelization efforts, and social justice initiatives, contributing to the overall revival of Catholicism in these regions. To sum up, as I've detailed in the video, those who claim that the liturgical reforms of the Second Vatican Council are the sole reason contributing to the decline of practice of the Catholic faith are engaging in logical fallacies and may be unaware of the developments occurring in other parts of the world. If I have to write a poetic two-liner for the Second Vatican Council, it will go like this. In the symphony of faith's journey, the whispers of change blend with the echoes of tradition, weaving a tapestry of renewal across the globe's diverse lands. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. God bless you.